Welcome, everybody. Thanks for gathering with me. The next story on the weekly Astro News Roundup for this week, January 29th, is on the origin of massive runaway stars that are and how they're ejected from their point of origin here in the Milky Way galaxy. So here you can see an image of the Milky Way, the three arms: Perseus, Scutum Centaurus arm, and then the North Arm and the Sagittarius arm. I have another video on that. There's some controversy about the number of arms Milky Way has, but we'll just stick with this model for now. Notice I have the links here. Go to Eadsy Astronomy. You'll be able to get the links, the link to the article, the link to the press release, which I used for making this story come alive for you, hopefully. So today we're going to talk about one of the fastest moving, most massive stars in our galaxy, and the detective work. We're going to see a couple detective stories in the post today from the astronomers just did to figure out why these stars are speeding through space like they stole something. Using the ultra-precise measurement from ESA's Gaia spacecraft, along with detailed spectrographic data from IA Cobb project, researchers took a deep dive into 214 O-type stars. These are not your average stars. They're not like the sun. O-types are the heavyweights of the stars. They are extremely hot, they are incredibly bright, and they're among the most massive stars in our Milky Way galaxy. So even though we're looking at O-type stars, this study focused on a special group of runaway stars. Stars moving through space much faster than their neighbors. It's almost like they've been flung out of their home neighborhoods, ejected, evicted. It's told to get out and get lost and to do it quickly. There's two main ways to launch a star across the galaxy from its point of origin or from its home neighborhood. The first one is a supernova kick. Usually it's a binary breakup. If a star is in a binary system and the companion explodes as a supernova, the gravitational bond that held these two together is broken. And when one star goes supernova, the surviving star, and so imagine it's like this: the one goes supernova, it slingshots it out across and out of their home neighborhood, out into the galaxy. It's almost like if you have a ball loose from a string while it's spinning and you cut it, it's going to go flying. Think about it that way. That's a good analogy. The second way that these stars get kicked out are gravitational brawls in star clusters. So young star clusters are very crowded places. Massive stars can have close gravitational encounters that act like a cosmic pinball. They don't hit, they don't merge, but they come in. The gravity forces one to leave, okay, flinging the one star outward at a very high velocity. The big question related to these two ways of having stars become runaway stars is which of these mechanisms is responsible for the most runaway O-type stars. That's what this paper was looking at, this research. Researchers combined about two key pieces of information. They wanted to look at how fast the stars were rotating as they went through space and whether they were single or in binary systems. So radiation matters because stars that gain mass from a companion before that, rotation matters because stars that gain mass from a companion, so if they're in a binary system going around and one is taking mass off the other, it doesn't have to be a white dwarf to do that, but if they're doing that, that can actually speed up the rotation of the one star that's gaining mass from a companion before that companion explodes. It often gets sped up. It's almost like an ice skater. If you've ever seen an ice skater when they have their arms out, they kind of twist slowly. As they pull their arms in, their spin gets going faster and faster, kind of like that. So rotation speed can actually act like a clue at the crime scene. Here's where it gets really, really interesting. Most runaway stars are slow rotators. They're faster than, and you'll see this later in this post, they're faster than a star like our sun in rotation, but these O-class stars that have been kicked out, most of them are slow rotators. The researchers found that the majority of the runaway O-type stars actually rotate fairly slowly compared to other stars of the same size. This suggests that many of them were likely ejected through gravitational interactions in clusters, not spun out by a binary partner during a supernova. Fast rotators usually mean that they are a supernova survivor. These stars that do not spin rapidly are much more likely to have come from a binary system where one star exploded. So if they're spinning really quick, they usually are going to come from a binary, and the companion star exploded into a supernova. The explosion both freed them from this bond with the other star, and earlier in their life, probably, and it freed them, and then earlier in their life, the companion star dumped material on them, and that caused them to spin up. As that material came on, the material forced that star to kind of contract a little bit, so the rotation speed increased. The stars moving at the highest speeds tend to be single stars, supporting the idea that dynamical ejections from crowded star clusters are responsible for the biggest velocity kicks. So they're in this massive star cluster, a big star comes by, and the gravity of that one pushes that star out fairly quickly, okay? And they get the biggest velocity kicks. One of the most surprising results, there's almost no runaway stars that are both fast moving, okay, and fast rotating. That's a big clue that the two ejection mechanisms, supernova breakups and cluster interactions, may produce distinct types of runaways rather than overlapping populations. The team also identified 12 runaway binary systems, and some of them are really heavy hitters. 3 are known high-mass X-ray binaries, systems where a massive star orbits a neutron star or a black hole, producing intense X-rays as material falls onto the compact object, the neutron star or the black hole. 3 more binaries look like strong candidates for hosting black holes that haven't yet been fully confirmed. So not only are these stars getting flung across the galaxy, some are doing it while dragging a stellar corpse along with them, be that a neutron star or a black hole. So there was an interaction, pushed them out of that cluster, and they grabbed the neutron star or the black hole from their companion that was there. They didn't get ejected at the supernova time. The study helps us to understand how massive stars live in clusters, how binaries exchange mass and spin up, how supernova can reshape stellar orbits, and how we end up with isolated massive stars far from any star-forming region. Runaway O-type stars are basically forensic evidence of past stellar violence. Every speed measurement and rotation rate is another clue in reconstructing who exploded, who got kicked out, and who survived the chaos. For example, we know of several stars from the trapezium in the constellation of Orion that show this. AE Auriga and MU Columbae, AER or MU Col, have been identified as matched pairs. These are 2 O-type stars that have similar spectral types and are moving in nearly the opposite direction from each other at about the same speed, 200, I think it's 200 kph per second. Anyway, numerical simulations indicate that a dynamical encounter between 2 binary systems rather than a supernova explosion is most likely the cause why these 2 stars were ejected, and allows for the simultaneous ejection of multiple stars. Kinemathetical analysis traces that the origin of these stars back to the core of the Orion Nebula cluster. Roughly, this happened about 2.5 million years ago. This link that I have here shares data that AER Aurigae rotational pole is pointed at us, and that it has a rather slow rotational speed of under 40 kilometers a second. That fits with the model of this paper. That's pretty typical of an O-class star. MU Columbine also fits this model as reported in this paper. They don't talk about these 2 stars. I'm just making connections here myself. Looking at the data on this star, we can see that in comparison to other O stars, a vision of 125 to 140 kilometers a second is considered standard for a O 9.5 main sequence star. While some old stars can rotate faster than 300 kilometers a second, those that got kicked out by the supernova, thus Mu Columbi is a fast rotator relative to a star like our sun, like I said earlier, but it's in the typical average rotator compared to other young O-class stars. Again, this seems to confirm the findings of this paper. So, next time you're out and you're looking at a bright blue star sitting all alone in the sky, remember, it might not have been born there, probably wasn't. You can actually go see, if you're in the southern hemisphere, Mu Columbi, and you can definitely see in the northern hemisphere, AE Aurigae, and it's up right now if you want to go take a look at those. Use your planetary software, Sky Safari, Stellarium, and you can look that up and figure out your star hop and go there. Pretty cool news on this. I thought this was pretty interesting. Hope you did too. Talk to you soon.